let's talk about. Oh man, I hope I pronounced this right. This was a conversation we were having earlier. Are we even pronouncing this show correctly?
Oh, we don't think we are.
Let's talk about Extant. Extant?
I think it's
I'm gonna say Extant.
That's what I've been calling it. And again, like the title card does go from extinct to extant.
It changes.
What is that? We've watched the pilot. So what do you think that I really, truly, this was a question that I had about the show. I'm like, okay, what does switching from extinct to extant mean?
Not quite clear. So let's say we're going to talk about the pilot. We won't go into full spoilers because this is posting before it airs. But I'll say I thought the pilot was decent, but also sort of lacking in something. Like it was well done, and it looked good, and I liked the cast. But it needed something else to hook me in. You know,
I felt like it needed clarity. I mean, I thought it was telegraphing certain things pretty early, particularly about one of the characters. Should I say who or?
Well, okay. I think we can say what's in the trailers.
Okay.
So I will say, because I don't know if I've seen the trailers enough to say that the trailers show Halle Berry goes into space, comes back, 13-month mission. She's been gone by herself, completely solo mission, but she comes back pregnant.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. However, and this is where it gets a little weird.
It's very weird.
Halle Berry living in the near future with her husband. They can't have kids. Her husband is a scientific robotics genius, and he builds the first human...
Played by Gore Vidal.
Huh?
Oh, Gore Vidal.
Yeah, no, Gore Vidal. There goes the lights. And I'm gesticulating.
I can't believe I just said Gore Vidal. The lights went out to be like, really? Yeah. Wow.
I'm not even going to try to say his name, though, because I always massacre it.
But his name is Gore.
Sure. But he designs this robot boy to be their child, basically. But it's also a prototype, because it's also like, hey, we could build these robots. They will think like humans and feel emotions like humans, and they can be there for people who need someone in their life. The weird thing about the show is what I've just described sounds like two different TV shows.
And that's what it feels like when you're watching the pilot.
Right.
You're like, I feel like, am I afraid of the robot uprising, or am I afraid of the impending alien invasion here? I don't know what to do. And I hate to belabor the point about that title, but I do feel like it is somehow relevant in the sense of, like, my sense is that the alien species was going extinct.
Right.
And is trying to, like, come, you know what I mean, sort of like find out if they can habitate on Earth, if they can start anew by impregnating Earthlings.
If it is aliens, because we should say we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, it's like certainly the pilot is not telling you like there are aliens, but it is certainly a reasonable thing to wonder.
Yeah.
Based on the pilot's events. But yeah, look, the stuff with the robot kid is very AI, as in Spielberg's artificial intelligence. Even the look of the show evokes AI with that kind of clean suburbia, near future, but we just have this robot kid who mostly is normal, but then there's little things off about him that remind you that he's a robot.
I think that's the character that I thought things were telegraphed about very early on. First of all, this child, he's the same, and I don't know this. We're terrible human beings because we don't know any of the actors' names.
Halle Berry.
We know Halle Berry. Yes. Let's look at. Can we IMDb this right now?
Yes.
But he was in Looper, right? He was like the creepy little kid in Looper, whose whole face. He's like the Paul Dano of his generation, where like it's gonna be tough for him to be cast as anything that isn't to some degree kind of creepy,
intense,
like intense, and so the kid just like right off the bat you get that feeling about him, like I don't feel totally comfortable with you at all.
Right.
But then he does things that sort of telegraph this idea that you should be wary of him very early on. And so it does become this thing of like, look, because I like all of these things, I like space shows and I like sci-fi and I like the idea of exploring AI and aliens, like I'm into all of it, and I'm definitely going to keep tuning in.
Right.
It's not the kind of thing where I was like, I never have to watch this again. If anything, I'm like, this is so weird. I actually have to now watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how strong I think it is.
Yeah.
In terms of it doesn't feel clear to me.
It doesn't. Yeah, it just it is.
What are you going for?
Right. It's a little murky. By the way, the kid's name is Pierce Gagnon.
Pierce Gagnon, and let me make sure that I'm right. He is the kid from Utah.
I believe you are correct.
Goran Visnicic.
See, that's why. Yeah, even looking it up wasn't because
Goran Visnicic.
we're stupid Americans.
Forgive
we can't read.
Forgive me, Goran. I'm a horrible
foreign
human
names. But yeah, the pilot. It was one of those things where it was like interesting, but I don't know if it was engaging. So I am curious to see where it goes. This show happened because of the success of Under the Dome. You know, it's very, again, CBS, they're so successful with their bread and butter procedurals. And some experiments they did with that in the past didn't work. Under the Dome became a huge hit for them in the summer. So they said, let's do not only a second season of that, let's order another serialized genre show. 13 episodes will air in the summer only. And it's certainly, I think it's getting off to a better start than Under the Dome, which inherently had a lot of goofiness and a lot of things that didn't play real. This is playing things, pretty serious. And I think, and with the performances are relatable, but there is a distancing at the same time as far as, not really being sure why these two plot threads. And I know that's the question, right? I'm sure the producers would say, well, that's the question, right? How do these things connect? But at the pilot stage, it's weird. It just kind of feels like it seems like someone couldn't make up their mind on which sci-fi
show
story
they wanted to do.
So
yeah, that's what it feels like to me too. Whereas it may 10 episodes down the line, we may go, my God, this was so brilliant,
right? Because
it raises this really interesting question and explores it in this new way that we really haven't seen before. Because we have seen the alien invasion before, and we have seen the robot uprising before.
Right.
We have seen, is AI human or is it not? It's not.
How human can it get?
How human can it get? And I mean, that's the thing that I did think that they telegraphed very quickly with him, though. And I don't want to say too much about it, but I was like, well, you've already really answered that question about this particular AI in the pilot, I thought.
And it's funny, by the way, the backstory on this show is interesting in that the writer has a couple of credits, but has never done TV, and basically entered sort of a contest and that with this script.
Yeah.
And people went crazy over it. And Amblin, Spielberg is producing it. Amblin, I think he got a personal phone call from Spielberg last year, we're going to do your show. And it's not bad. It's not badly written, but it's also funny to be like, wow, this script made people go insane. We've got to do this. And the pilot, we're not there with it yet, right?
Not yet, but I'm hopeful,
right?
That it's going somewhere interesting. I do really like the cast, even though I have totally...
Even if you can't remember how to say
their names and said ridiculous things about otherworldly figures. But I am interested in it. I don't think it's a great pilot. I think it's an interesting concept. I'm going to keep tuning in.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it gets that summer benefit, but you want it to turn into something cool, and there's certainly potential there. We just hope that a few episodes in, we kind of have that eureka moment of it's all coming together.
That's why.
That's why.